Another really impressive opponent has been announced for the Duke basketball schedule in the 2024-2025 season. Wow, it's going to be a doozy to watch. Here, we'll discuss it all today on Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson, and it's so great to have you here with us on Thursday, June 13th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils, of course, is your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We've got a lot to talk about today, but if you have not done so already, please make sure that you follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Your support like that just means so much to us here on the program. Watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Please do what you can to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That means a whole lot. Comment down below your thoughts about Duke basketball, and I'll be interactive with you in episodes to come. Really, once again, just appreciate that support so much. You can follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. And follow me on X at _JJ_Jackson_. Once again, remember, it is a shorter version of Locked On Blue Devils over these summer months. Just a couple of times a week, we'll be releasing episodes for you. But then come August, we're back at it 5 days a week, every single day. So a lot of good stuff coming your way here on Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, on today's show, it's my good pal Kevin Connelly, who's the site expert from Durham. And we've got some scheduled news to get to in just a moment. But before we talk anything about news, I just got to know how my man Kevin is doing. Summertime has arrived. How are things going for you, man?
Summertime's awesome, man. We all love the summer, am I right? But everything's good. Thanks for having me again, JJ. And really excited to get into this conversation about the schedule and where things might go, and even the schedule looking beyond the season.
All right, so we've got a new opponent on the schedule for the Blue Devils as ESPN has officially announced the pairings for the ACC-SEC Challenge for this upcoming season, actually a little bit earlier in the summer than last season when we found out the first pairings between these two schools. And for the Duke Blue Devils, they get to be at home after last season playing on the road at Arkansas. So for Duke, they will be playing at home inside Cameron Indoor Stadium against my alma mater, the Auburn Tigers, a really talented team, top 10 buzz nationally coming into the upcoming season, led, of course, by the return of their All-American in Janai Broome. They're in the front court, so another just really, really kind of loaded opponent for Duke on the schedule. And I think for some, maybe a bit of a surprise that it wasn't some of the other SEC schools out there that Duke was paired with.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing I'll go with is like Auburn's a really good team, like you just highlighted. They're probably going to be a top 10 team at the time of the game, maybe inside the top 10. But I do think it took a lot of people by surprise. Now, everyone knew it wasn't going to be Kentucky. We talked about it last year when Duke didn't get matched up with Kentucky. Everyone knew Duke was going to go on the road. They got Arkansas instead of Kentucky. And we all said, okay, well, they're not getting Kentucky the following year because they're playing them in the Champions Classic. So that one automatically got scratched off. And I think the two names that everybody talked about was Arkansas, again, getting a rematch in Cameron now because they have John Calipari as their head coach, and just about all those Kentucky guys followed him over to Arkansas, or Alabama, a Final Four team from a season ago. They return a lot of their studs from last year. And then Auburn kind of was the other team that's going to be in the top 15, the top 10 that no one really talked about because you could have had John Calipari roaming the sidelines in Cameron Indoor Stadium, or you could have had a Final Four team from a season ago in the Crimson Tide of Alabama. But it ends up being Auburn. Alabama actually on the same night will be coming to Tobacco Road to play North Carolina in a rematch of last year's Sweet 16 game. So you kind of understand why that matchup happened and they didn't get to come to Duke and instead are going to Chapel Hill. But yeah, I think a lot of people were hoping for Duke-Arkansas rematch, and especially to see John Calipari and the Razorbacks inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. But instead, it's going to be Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers, and it's another really quality game on this schedule for Duke in what is a absolutely loaded non-conference slate.
For years and years and years now, Bruce Pearl has been talking about how he wants more impressive non-conference opponents on his schedule for Auburn, and he's got that here. He's been advocating for better matchups in the SEC Big 12 Challenge when that was a big thing, and also doing the same thing now that the SEC ACC Challenge exists. Auburn was paired with the home game against Virginia Tech a season ago, so this is a bit of an uptick for what's going to be on the Tigers' schedule. Bruce Pearl had a comment that said it's hard to put in perspective exactly what this opportunity means for our Auburn basketball program to be selected by ESPN in our conference to compete against one of the greatest programs in the history of college basketball. It's tremendous recognition for where our program is at right now. What a tremendous responsibility. I can no longer play the "we don't get any respect" card, which I think we've earned by winning 4 conference championships over the last 7 years. Personally, coaching in Cameron Indoor Stadium against head coach Jon Scheyer and the Duke basketball program will be extremely meaningful to me. I know that will be the same for our players and coaching staff, end quote. So much praise for Bruce Pearl. He's been in a lot of major recruiting battles over the last 2 or 3 years with the likes of Jon Scheyer and the Duke coaching staff. Those guys pretty vocal in their Jewish faith. So they've been very well connected for quite a while, and now they're going to get to have a coaching matchup inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. Kind of fun to see Duke play opponents that they don't typically play. Played this Auburn team in the 2019 Maui tournament, but other than that, you don't find many matchups between these two schools.
Yeah, like you said, last time Duke played Auburn, they were rolling with the squad of Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett in that really good semifinal game in the Maui Invitational. And Duke is undefeated against Auburn in this all-time series history. They're 4-0, and it's actually the first time that Auburn's going to come and play at Duke since 1981. That was the last matchup these two teams had played before that Maui Invitational tournament. So, like you said, these teams do not play very often, and the first time they're playing on either's home floor since 1981. So certainly should be interesting to watch, interesting to see, and we'll see what happens down the road. But yeah, I think people, once it kind of settled in and you said, you digested, okay, like they're going to play Auburn. Auburn's still a really good team. So out of the, 4 or 5 big major non-conference teams on this schedule, most of them are probably going to be ranked in the top 25, maybe even pushing the top 15.
Yeah, we know so much about that Duke 2018-2019 basketball team that had Zion and RJ and Cam Reddish, Trey Jones, all the big names that were a part of that program that year and played Auburn, as you said, in the semifinals of Maui. But it was Auburn that ended up going to the 2019 Final Four, their only Final Four in program history, one step further than Duke was able to go because they bowed out, of course, in the Elite Eight game against Michigan State. So really exciting schedule news there. Duke to face Auburn at home in the ACC SEC Challenge. A few openings left in the Duke men's basketball schedule. What exactly does that kind of look like and more? And we'll discuss that after we take our first time out here on today's show of the program. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. We absolutely love Gametime, and it makes getting into the NBA Finals faster and easier with their ticketing process. Just a few games left, possibly, maybe only one in the NBA Finals, but it's the perfect time to have Gametime help you get there. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer to tip-off that it gets. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute seats for sports, concerts, comedy, theater events, and so much more. You could save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats for you. The toggling the feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. With the all-in pricing feature, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's keep moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside Kevin Connelly, who's the site expert for Ball Durham. All right, so Kevin, we've got Duke now set to take on Auburn in the ACC SEC Challenge. What does that put the Duke schedule at right now as we take a look at the non-conference portion of it? What are the big questions that are left? And I guess with that, we could kind of refresh people on what we know so far in regards to the schedule.
So we always knew there was an ACC SEC Challenge, so it always made it 8 non-conference games right now on the schedule for Duke, meaning that they have 3 more remaining to book. One thing I find interesting is that Duke isn't really in a multi-team event. I think the game against Kansas in Las Vegas may be construed as one, playing Kansas in Las Vegas, and then I think Seattle is playing, I want to say Grand Canyon. I'm not really sure who they play, but then Seattle goes from Las Vegas to Durham to play Duke, and whoever they play is going to Lawrence to play Kansas right after that. So that could be the MTE for Duke. However, there are 3 spots remaining in their non-conference schedule. If we want to go through it now, right now, confirmed dates: November 4th against Maine. That'll be the season opener. Then they play November 12th against Kentucky in Atlanta. That's the State Farm Champions Classic. Then they go out west to play Arizona on November 22nd. They stay out west because on November 26th, they play Kansas in Las Vegas. Then it's a quick turnaround. They come right back home on November 29th to play Seattle. Then it's that December 4th game against Auburn in the ACC SEC Challenge. George Mason will come to Cameron on December 17th. And then the non-conference schedule wraps up all the way on February 22nd in Madison Square Garden in New York City against Illinois. So still 3 games left to fill for Duke in the non-conference schedule. I don't know who those opponents are going to be, but I'm pretty sure Duke is going to book a game in between Maine and Kentucky, so somewhere between November 4th and November 12th. Then I think another game is going to come, a non-conference game, I would imagine, in between Auburn and George Mason. I think you could see 2 games there because remember, the ACC has had a game in early December. Last year, December 2nd, Duke went to Georgia Tech. I'm kind of circling that Saturday, December 8th for perhaps an ACC game on this Duke schedule. And then I think what'll be the final mid-major non-conference game is when the team returns back from Christmas break. Right around the start of the new year. I think they'll have a final non-conference tune-up there before the heart of the ACC play begins right around January 1st. You
feel pretty good about 3 more mid-majors, right? If we just kind of look at the quality of competition, you think that's what's coming that way?
Yeah, I think it is, because when you look at – you really can't fit any more power conference teams on there when you already have Kentucky, Arizona, Kansas, Auburn, and Illinois. That's 5 power conference games on your schedule. So, and then the Illinois game coming right in the heart of ACC play too. I'm very confident it'll be 3 mid-major games that are added to this Duke schedule.
They're talented games that are on there so far. Obviously, you're going to be tested in the ACC conference play when that opens up. But look, you got to win, and sometimes it is great for a team to know and learn how to win, as we've heard coaches talk about. And so, kind of finding those perfect mid-major opponents. Look, Duke is certainly capable of losing those games. We never would have believed that to be true until the Stephen F. Austin game at home a few seasons ago when Duke had that just absolutely ridiculous non-conference home winning streak that they had running for the longest time there. But it is good to find some of those mid-major schools that, yes, can give you a little bit of competition there, but hopefully you set yourself up to really win these basketball games and establish those winning habits.
And JJ, I just want to make one correction to what I said. I said there could be 2 games in between Auburn and George Mason. I misspoke. I think there's only going to be 1 game from December 4th to December 17th, and I believe it will be that ACC game on December 8th. I think the other mid-major non-conference game comes in between Kentucky and Arizona. So I think Duke's going to add 1 game between November 4th and November 12th, and then another game between November 12th and November 22nd before they head out west. Because remember, Duke gets typically off for a week for their fall semester exams. So I think that'll be starting right around December the 9th. And then I think they'll finish up right around the 17th with that game against George Mason. So the 3 non-conference games I think that are going to be added are between November 4th, November 12th, then November 12th and November 22nd. And I think at the end of December, right when the team gets back from Christmas break before ACC play starts in January. So just wanted to clear that up, that I think only 1 game gets added in between Auburn and George Mason. I think that it's going to be an ACC game.
Perfect. And I know we're throwing a lot of dates out there to people. That's why this is an opportunity for me to plug balldurham.com, because coming to the website, you'll be able to see this in written version, exactly what Kevin is referring to for that. But like I was saying, with these mid-major opponents, establishing those winning habits can be important for this team, Kevin. I mean, any team.
Absolutely. And not to harp on it, but when you look at what this schedule already entails, I mean, let's be honest. If this team somehow runs the table in non-conference play, you're thinking about national championship. And when you have Kentucky and Kansas and a road game against Arizona, it's not going to be easy. So I think it even puts more of an emphasis on these mid-major games for this team to try and work out those kinks and try and develop that on-court chemistry, because John Shire, you know how a coach feels about a team based on the non-conference schedule. And obviously he feels very confident about this team. He knows a lot of eyes are going to be on this team because of Cooper Flagg, and he's throwing them right into the deep end of the pool in early November.
Really excited to see the schedule be finalized and come together. We've got a couple of chatter out there about the following season schedule. I mean, this time of year during the summer is when a lot of these athletic departments are able to get schedules for future dates announced for big-time football games, and the basketball schedule included in that as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And how about Jason Tatum, assistant coach Neil Jefferson, some of those Boston Celtics potentially one win away from an NBA title. We've got to discuss all of that and more with our good pal Kevin Connelly when we return after one more break here on today's show. Got to make sure I tell you a little bit about Locked On. We've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today. Go check it out after this episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Keep moving forward. We've got Kevin Connelly here with me from Ball Durham. Tell us a little bit about Ball Durham, if you will, Kevin.
We got everything you could possibly want on Duke basketball, Duke athletics, NBA finals. JJ, you gave us a little bit of a plug there. Our conversation about this year's upcoming non-conference schedule. We're going to have a post posted on that, so you can, if you're more of a visual understander, if you're better with visual comprehension, we'll have the dates lined up and where we think games are going to go through what we know so far of the schedule. So come read us every day over at balldurham.com, and you can follow us on social media at ball_Durham.
Love it. Go check it all out. It's really good stuff over there from Kevin. So appreciate your support of his work. Follow them on X, as he said, at ball_Durham, and he's there as well at Kevin Connelly 24 on X. So in regards to the future schedule for the Duke men's basketball team, the NIL tournament that's coming up that we've been talking a little bit about this offseason. You mentioned it a few months ago, Kevin. Not likely that this will take place now in the upcoming 2024-2025 season, because as we've been discussing all day today, there's only 3 openings remaining. But what chatter is out there currently?
Yeah, so I think one of the most fascinating events in the college basketball season that's coming up this year is this Players Era NIL tournament held in Las Vegas right around the weekend of Thanksgiving. And there's currently 8 teams in it this year. Duke will not be in it. It's Rutgers, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, San Diego State, Alabama, Houston, Creighton, and Oregon. And the teams that get in this tournament are guaranteed $1 million to spread through their collective of their NIL. And that players and teams can make more based on appearances, individual performances, team performances throughout the tournament. The expectation is this 8-team field is going to expand to 18 teams next year. And they already have a couple of teams that are penciled in. Gonzaga, Michigan, St. John's, Syracuse, and St. Joseph's are confirmed to be in it for next season. They're still looking to add a couple more teams to get that up to 18, and Duke is rumored to be one of the teams that is thinking about joining it for the 2025-2026 season, in addition to the teams that are already in it for this upcoming season. Duke, Kansas, and Virginia are 3 teams that are reportedly in talks. I know ESPN's Jay Billis had a story on it, as did CBS Sports' Matt Norlander as well. So your listeners can go check that out. But right now, it seems like Duke is trending towards joining that Players Era NIL tournament out in Las Vegas. And funny enough, Duke's going to be out there this season playing Kansas. So I don't know if that's going to enhance the talks. I don't know. Obviously, John Shire and the coaching staff are going to have their attention focused on playing Kansas when they're out there, but maybe they have another eye towards that NIL tournament. That obviously, if your program and your players can get $1 million spread throughout them, I think it'd be foolish not to look into that, especially in this climate of college sports and college basketball.
Yeah, I was going to say, just how big can this be? And you spoke to it. It's very large in terms of the money that's attached to it. But then it seems like we've got really good teams and opponents possibly that could be out there to test us. You talk about this Duke basketball team. Feels like it's been a little while since Duke has played in a Maui or a Battle for Atlantis or some of those other kind of premier preseason feast week type tournaments, preseason meaning before the ACC play kind of picks up. So maybe this could be that opportunity for Duke in the upcoming season's schedule, because as we know, going into 2024, 2025, there's not really that kind of tournament format before conference play starts.
Yeah, and they're not in the Maui tournament next year. They're not in the Battle for Atlantis tournament for next season either. So it seems like if John Shire, who again hasn't scheduled an MTE, remember they were in an MTE last year, and it was in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and the competition wasn't great. It was LaSalle, it was Southern Indiana, and I'm drawing a blank on the other team off the top of my head, but that was their MTE last year.
That tells you the level of competition that we're forgetting it, Kevin.
Exactly. And there was only 4 major games on the non-conference schedule last year. Now they're upping that to 5 this year. And I don't think anyone's complaining that this team is not in an MTE for this upcoming season, given their non-conference schedule that we talked about. But just thought it was interesting that already looking ahead to 25, 26, that could be at least 3 games right off the bat in the non-conference schedule for that 2025, 2026 season.
Okay, so we'll see how that comes to be. Again, there's a story that you can go read right now today in this very moment, balldurham.com, where, Kevin, you've laid out a little bit more about that. Last night, we saw Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics find a way to win one in Dallas. First time this NBA Finals series between the Celtics and Mavericks shifted to Dallas, with the Mavericks being the home team. At one point early in the fourth quarter, late in the third, Boston had a 21-point lead. Then there was a 22-2 run from the Dallas Mavericks to really get back in it, engined by Kyrie Irving and his performance after Luka Doncic fouled out of the game. But Jason Tatum and the Celtics got the job done. They're now 1 win away from the title. Talk a little bit about last night's game in particular.
Yeah, I think it's a little disappointing now that Boston's up 3-0. I think everyone was expecting this great series, and we've had 2 close games in Game 2 and Game 3, but maybe the Mavericks are able to force a Game 5, but no team has ever come back from 3-0 down in an NBA series, so I don't think that's going to start right now. But for Dallas, they were looking for something from Kyrie Irving. He really didn't show up in Boston, and he showed up last night, finishing with 35 points, 13 for 28 from the field. His 3-point shot finally went down. He was 4 of 6 from 3. Want to highlight the play really, Derek Lively. 2 dunks late in the fourth quarter. Both got Dallas back within 2. Coming off the bench, he had his best game of the finals, 11 points and 13 rebounds. He kind of struggled up in Boston as well, but this is a Celtics team that's just loaded. Jason Tatum leading the way, 31, 6, and 5. He didn't shoot at his best in the first 2 games at home either, but you saw him do a lot of everything else. He was rebounding. He was dishing out assists to the hot shooters of Derek White and Jaylen Brown. And the 3-point shot really wasn't there for him either last night, just 4 of 13 from deep, but still shot 11 of 26 from the floor. Mentioned finishing with those 31 points, which led everybody on Boston. And see finally if Boston is able to get this elusive final victory of the series, if a little bit more respect goes on to Jason Tatum's name, because it feels like for everything great he's done in the NBA, there's always some critics out there critiquing his game and saying he's playing a second fiddle or not really showing up. And I don't know if that's the case right now. Now, Boston ends this series in 4. I have to think Jaylen Brown might be the finals MVP, just the way
that's where I was going to go.
Yeah, yep. He scored the basketball over the first 3 games coming off of the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. But, man, Jason Tatum has shown even if his shot's not falling, he can affect the game in other ways. And certainly good to see that he's right on the cusp now of getting that first NBA title.
Let's see how it all can come together. I mean, we've got another game coming up tomorrow night in game 4 of this, and we'll see if Boston's able to get the job done and win the NBA title. That would be crazy for the Celtics, who have been waiting a long time since their 2008 title to be back on top of the basketball world. So certainly we'll see how that all plays out and see if Jason Tatum can get the job done. Any other thoughts that you've got on this NBA Finals or anything you'd like to share before we close, Kevin?
I'm hoping Dallas can at least get Game 4 because you don't want to see basketball end. Yes, there's summer league, and I know the draft is right around the corner, and obviously a lot of Duke fans are excited to see Jared McCain and Kyle Filipowski, where they're going to be selected, and then seeing them play in summer league for the first time back on the court since the season ended in late March. But we still want to squeeze out as much real legit NBA basketball as we can. So hopefully Dallas can force a Game 5, but I don't think it's going to go much more than Game 5. And I'll make that my official prediction. I think Jason Tatum and the Celtics celebrate on their home floor. And also, as you mentioned, Emile Jefferson, first year leaving the Duke basketball bench, joining the bench up in Boston, and he might go 1-for-1 in NBA titles. So it would be a great start to his NBA coaching career.
Without a doubt, that'd be a great way to kick it all off. And for Tatum in particular, obviously Boston just wants to win, Kevin. They're like, let's sweep it. Let's get it over with. The basketball viewers, we want more of these games down the stretch. But keep in mind as well, Jason Tatum's got a run with Team USA coming up in the Summer Olympics. So maybe he's ready to just go ahead and get this done in 4 so he can rest just a little bit before he's out there representing the country.
I think that's a good point you make. So, yeah, like typically finals ends in June and you don't see these Duke guys in the NBA up again until September, October. We're going to get a look at Jason Tatum, Kamen Malawak as well in the Olympics in the summer. So that'll be certainly something to watch and exciting for all the Duke fans out there. But we'll see what happens in these last couple of games in the NBA Finals.
Great stuff, Kevin. Great episode with you today. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Go check out all of his work over at Ball Durham. Thank you for your support. Once again, please be sure to follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. Like this video on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a 5-star rating and written review on the Apple Podcast platform. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.